That's right. Yahoo.com, daily fantasy sports. It's where it's happening. No MME for those of you that are looking to enjoy yourselves without having to put in 150 entries, 10 max, very low management fees, sometimes zero, and pretty solid pricing as well that you can exploit. But I was thinking about this the other day, Adam. One thing about Yahoo that also could give, I don't want to say an edge, but is something to consider. You notice a lot of people will play the same guys that they're playing on maybe their main site on DraftKings maybe or FanDuel, and they'll basically try to transfer that lineup over without really looking to see where the best value is on Yahoo. And oftentimes you have guys that are wildly underpriced or guys that are way too expensive, whereas on DraftKings they're a great play and on Yahoo they're not a good play.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Yahoo does a good job of having their own pricing. There was a smaller site that people used to play on with like identical pricing to DraftKings before, where you could
double it. They would double it.
Yeah, exactly. You could just take your DraftKings lineup and play it over there. So it's nice, if you put the effort into actually learning Yahoo pricing and scoring, you certainly will be better than people who aren't doing that.
Yep. And by the way, sorry for the tardiness. This time it was actually my fault. Had a wasp problem in the shed, and think of any word that would make me less of a man when it comes to wasps. That's what I am. But fortunately, I got a neighbor with balls of steel. That guy just came over, put a windbreaker on, and some like just work, the work glasses, the clear work glasses. He's like, "Where's the spray?" He goes in there, just starts lighting it up, and I got good neighbors. I stood there. I was like, "Here, give me the can," and I hit the outside of it like I was doing something. But I'm not gonna lie, man. I hate wasps. They scare the hell out of me. I'm telling you, man. Like certain things, I have no problem with. Wasps swarming me? No, I can't do it.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a good time.
You got wasps around your way, right?
Yeah.
I know Josh just said that he called an exterminator he saw 3 wasps and called
three carpenter bees.
3 carpenter bees and called an exterminator.
Dude, if I saw 3 wasps on my back porch, I would sell this house.
Yeah, not fun. But anyway, we got 5 games to talk about. 6 if you're playing on FanDuel. What do you say we get into it, Adam? And let me ask you first. Josh and I did the strategy show today. We covered both slates, but obviously finished on the late slate. What are your thoughts on pitching here on DraftKings and Yahoo, especially where you don't have the 6:35 game?
It is absolutely awful. On FanDuel, it's nice because you have Domingo Germán, but on DraftKings, you have a popular Tanner Roark for no real reason other than he's facing the Padres and he's inexpensive. Yeah, it's bad. I'm rostering Hunter Wood. That's how bad it is.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess we will get into that, and we'll start now. Well, actually, no. We got to tackle the game on FanDuel first. So let's do that. New York Yankees, Kansas City Royals. We've got a pretty solid spot here for Domingo Germán. I mean, there's definitely strikeouts. There are a lot of stolen base. There's a lot of speed in this lineup, so we can talk about that. But 3.7 implied total for the Kansas City Royals, 3rd lowest on the slate. And then on the other side of this game, going up against Homer Bailey, the 2nd highest total. The Yankees are at 5.4 here at Yankee Stadium. What are your thoughts on Domingo Germán and then, of course, Homer Bailey?
Germán's the clear number 1 pitcher on the slate to me.
Yeah, I don't think it's even close.
Yeah, me neither. Not an imposing Kansas City lineup. Behind Merrifield and Mondesi, there's really nothing that you're that concerned about. Plenty of strikeouts in the lineup. Germán's got really good stuff, and we're talking FanDuel for him, so you don't even get penalized by his high walk rate. It's just a pretty easy play, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. What are your thoughts though on the other side with Homer Bailey? He's missing bats. I mean, that's true. Homer Bailey is getting some strikeouts. But this doesn't seem like the most endearing matchup for Bailey here. And, for a righty at Yankee Stadium, granted a watered down Yankees lineup, but still one that's better than most in baseball. His swinging strike rate, 11.5% this year. And like I said, he has been missing bats. but this could be one where he kind of runs into some trouble. Are you willing to say, screw it, I'll take my chances on Bailey, or do you just like this Yankees team too much tonight?
I would if he was on Yahoo or DraftKings main slate. Like, I'd have no problem going to him as an SP2 here, but on FanDuel, there's really no reason to. You only have to roster the one guy, and
Exactly.
even when you get past Domingo Germán, you still have Tanner Roark in a reasonable spot. You have Chris Paddock, at like an $8,500 price tag. There's no real reason for me to get the Homer Bailey on a one-pitcher site.
So what about hitters in this game?
The Yankees, Bailey does miss bats, but he's still not an elite pitcher by any stretch. Kansas City's bullpen also is not very good. The problem, of course, is the Yankees just have a watered-down lineup right now, but you still have guys in there like Aaron Judge, Luke Voit, Gleyber Torres that have power. You can only stack 4 anyway, so throwing in a DJ LeMahieu or a Brett Gardner or something like that as your 4th guy is perfectly fine.
Yeah, and Homer Bailey is still someone that is prone to giving up some home runs. Like even if this guy misses some even if he gets some strikeouts, I still expect Bailey to give up some power. I think it was last year towards the end of the season, you and I were talking about when they brought him back up that he actually had made some adjustments. I know I had mentioned it on the first time up after looking over his AAA numbers or wherever he was pitching that he had made some changes. But that doesn't mean that he's not still going to cough up power. And I think that's the key point here, especially at a really friendly park. The only thing I would say, it would be nice if we had more lefties in this lineup, more good lefties.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
I mean, you have Brett Gardner, Mike Ford, and Tyler Wade. So that's fun. All right. Anything else from this one before we move on? That's the one game on FanDuel that isn't included on Yahoo or DraftKings.
No, that's it for me from that one.
All right. Well, you had mentioned just moments ago that Hunter Wood was someone that you will be playing. Tampa Bay at home against Baltimore. Baltimore, the lowest or second lowest implied total on this slate at 3.3 at Tropicana Field, clearly a pitcher-friendly park. And then on the other side, Andrew Cashner, who, we talk about Homer Bailey, someone that, misses bats but can still get hammered. Andrew Cashner doesn't even miss bats. So there's that. But I guess first we have to start with pitching here and talk about the bullpen game we're getting from the Rays.
So as of right now, I don't know who's following Hunter Wood. Like, everyone's saying it's Ryan Yarbrough, but the most recent thing I saw was from a Tampa Bay website or article that says no word on who will follow Wood. Left-hander Ryan Yarbrough is a possibility, but he's been battling a stomach bug in recent days. Lefty Jalen Beeks could also provide some length after Wood. So that's the most recent information I have. If we get confirmation that Yarbrough is good to go, I'm interested in Yarbrough on the 2 pitcher sites. But without that confirmation, I don't really want to go there. And I do think there's a pretty good chance that you get at least 2-3 innings out of Hunter Wood here, because Tampa Bay needs to use an opener again tomorrow with Blake Snell on the injured list. So it's not their usual, stretch where they can just, have their guy go an inning and be fine. Wood's gone. He went 3 innings in his first relief appearance this year. He used to be a starter in the minors. Like, he should be able to give them a couple of innings here. And he's 4K on a slate where I don't like any pitching at all. So, and I do like plenty of expensive bats. So even if I project him for like 7 or 8 points, he's just getting into lineups because it lets me get these bats that I like.
All right. Fair enough. It'd be nice to know that he could possibly get a win. I mean, that's not the case, but
right.
Or a quality start. Well, actually, no, you're talking about 2 pitcher sites. So really only the win. Yeah, I guess, like you said, though, if we get word on Yarbrough, there's a couple things here. First of all, he hasn't pitched since the 12th. Like you said, had been battling the stomach bug. Is that what you mentioned?
Yep.
Yeah, hasn't pitched since the 12th, so he's had plenty of time off. And the most pitches he's thrown in a game this year is 57, then 49, then 16. How long do you think they'd let him go even if he does come in in long relief?
Talking about Yarbrough?
Yeah, I mean, I would hope 4 innings, but I don't know.
Yeah, I would think, 4 or 5 innings.
Yeah, by the way, how good was Yanni Chirinos in long relief yesterday?
He was nasty yesterday.
My God. 5 one-hit scoreless innings with 5 strikeouts and a win. I mean, dude, he's good. He's good. But But I'm with you there. If Chirinos, if we get word that he's playing, I wish he was a little bit cheaper, but there's only so much we can do about that. Tampa Bay bats too against Andrew Kashner. They right now have the fourth highest implied run total, 5.3. Actually, you have 5 teams at 5.3 or higher. They are one of them. Kashner will have benefit from not being at Camden Yards, but look, this Tampa Bay lineup has been good. Kashner has not been good, and he's probably going to give up a home run or two in the process. What are you doing with this Rays team that led off with Meadows, Pham, Choi, who homered yesterday, Diaz, Brandon Lau, who homered yesterday, had another solid game, Zunino batting 6th, Kiermaier, Robertson, and Dames closing out the 7-8-9 here.
Absolutely love Tampa Bay. My favorite non-core stack, and I think they probably are even higher than Colorado, maybe Philly for me too. Like they're right up there at the top because when you factor in the pricing, the ballpark sucks, but Andrew Kashner's terrible. The Orioles bullpen is terrible. Kashner's like not even getting ground balls anymore. He's just getting absolutely blasted by everyone.
Yep.
You have plenty of power at affordable price points here. G-Man Choi at $3,700 is a 251 ISO against right-handed pitching since the start of 2017. Brandon Lau, since coming up, has a 250 ISO. Even if that doesn't continue, the price tag's affordable for him. Mike Zunino is my favorite catcher on the slate outside of maybe JT Realmuto, but a really inexpensive price point, a lineup bump, and his only issue as a hitter is that he can't make contact, but Kashner doesn't get swings and misses. 5.7% swinging strike rate to righties so far this year. Zunino has a 228 ISO since 2017. All kinds of power. There's just nothing for me not to like on Tampa Bay.
For sure. There really isn't. I mean, yesterday's matchup was as good as it gets. And, Tampa Bay was clearly a top option, a top stack across the board. But they are today, too. I mean, not all that much changes. You have another weak righty, and this Tampa Bay team, I'm really not worried about what park they're at. I like all of them. And, when you consider a weak catcher position, I'll take Mike Zunino batting 6th as well. I have no problems with him moving up in the order whatsoever from 8th to 7th and 6th. I like it. Any Baltimore bats interest here before we move on?
I have nothing from Baltimore.
All right, and that's how it should be. Let's talk about the Dodgers in Milwaukee then. Julio Urias and Zach Davies. Well, Zach Davies earlier today, I want to pull up ownership now because some of the ownership projections this morning, Adam, were insane. Like just downright crazy because of, the lack of depth at the position, which really just made me want to go anywhere but the chalk. Right now you have, okay. Why is he not on there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're not showing that game for some reason. Yeah, it looks like we're not showing Milwaukee Dodgers right now. Huh. All right. We'll get that fixed and see what's going on. But I think earlier he was projected to have some ownership. Either way, Davies facing a lot of talented Dodgers and Bellinger back in the lineup. So you got Peterson, Seager, Turner, Bellinger, Pollock, Muncy, Kike Hernandez. That's a gauntlet right there. And then with Urias, you have Kane, Yelich, Braun. So 2 solid righties. And then one of the best hitters in the league, lefty, who cares? Yasmani Grandal batting cleanup, better from the left side, but still one of the better hitting catchers. And then Aguilar batting 5th. I don't know, but both of these spots seem like spots that could get both pitchers in trouble.
Yeah, it's not a spot where I'm looking to go for pitching here. Really tough matchup for both guys. Davies just like a completely average pitcher in basically every way. He doesn't really get pounded, but he doesn't miss bats, and that's really scary against the Dodgers team with as much power as they have. With a positive park upgrade as well. Kind of expensive price tags on the Dodgers. Cody Bellinger coming in at $5,500, Jack Peterson at $5,200 on DraftKings. Maybe keeps their ownership down, I would guess, because they're going to be competing with bats in Coors Field as well as with Tampa Bay. So I think this is a really high upside spot at probably lower ownership than you would normally get on a 5-game slate. And then on the other side, Urias has he's a good pitcher, I think, but he hasn't been great this season. And on top of that, this is his last start before he goes back to the bullpen. They have shown no inclination in really stretching him out more than 5 innings. So that combined with a tough matchup against Milwaukee, I don't see the need to pay like an $8,000 price tag on him. And also worth pointing out with the Dodgers, it is like the best lineup they could run out there as well as far as power goes.
Yes, it is. And of course, it is a very solid park. Josh and I actually went over this morning. Last year, it was the second best lefty power park in the league, behind only, of course, the Yankees, right? According to FanGraphs. And then it was, I think, 9th best for right-handed power. So, second best in the league for lefty power. You've got a lot of lefty power bats on this Dodgers team. Still a very friendly park for righties. And there's a few of these lefties in Milwaukee that can hit lefties anyway. So, I just think both spots are really interesting. Listen, Orioles has good stuff, but like you said, he hasn't really proven this year that we should be super concerned about him. We're going to have to face the bullpen, but I think, look, both spots are fine. I really like Dodgers bats because of the way this lineup is configured.
Yeah, me too. Between these two teams, I would give the edge to the Dodgers just because I love that lineup. Milwaukee, and because I think Urias is a better pitcher than Zach Davies is, so I'd give them the edge.
All right. You want to talk about anything else before we move on?
AJ Pollock in particular, I think just stands out at his price point. He's just better than a high 3K, low 4K hitter, which is where he's been. He hasn't started out well this year, but he has a long enough track record where just jumping on opportunities to roster those guys at cheap price points is pretty much always profitable.
Yep, and especially when they're getting a favorable park shift as well. Yep. All right, Colorado and Philly. Zach Eflin, Kyle Freeland. Zach Eflin had made 2 phenomenal starts against Washington and against Minnesota, and then got blown up by the Miami Marlins in his last start. So, yeah, that's interesting. We know that he's a lot better against righties than he is against lefties. That's always been the case for Eflin. And then Kyle Freeland. Just a solid lefty that's done a good job of pitching at Coors, but he's going up against a loaded Phillies lineup. I will say one advantage he has is Gene Segura doesn't strike out. With Scott Kingery in the lineup, he will swing over some pitches. He's looked really good since starting. My God, if you remember this, Scott Kingery coming up was actually there was a lot of hope for him. And he was basically in panic mode every time he went in, every time there were 2 strikes. And you could just see he wasn't ready. I had no idea what to expect from him this year, but the guy has looked like legitimately good at the plate and actually looks like a major league hitter now. So I don't think he's a free out, but I do think it's easier to strike him out than Gene Segura. And that's worth mentioning. Roman Quinn.
Yeah, I think
go ahead.
At this point in his career, he's a worse hitter than Gene Segura. I don't think there's any question about that.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's just a matter of where is he at. If we take last season out of it, when like you said, he was hyped as a prospect. He got the 6-year extension before he even played in the major leagues. If he started out last,
I forgot about that. You're right. Yeah. That huge, yeah.
It's like if we didn't have last year where he clearly was just overmatched. He was learning a new position, playing shortstop, all this stuff. If he was starting his career like this, we'd be anointing him the next Rhys Hoskins. But we have last year, so everyone's just completely ignoring what he's doing right now. And the truth, I think, is somewhere in the middle. He was a top prospect for a reason, and there was a lot of stuff going on last year, a lot of pressure, a lot of just changes where, I think that there's a good chance he's better than projection systems are going to give him credit for this year. So with him batting second, I do have interest in him, but clearly not as good a hitter as Segura, like you said.
Right. And will strike out more as well. Segura really does not strike out frequently whatsoever. So where do you stand on the pitchers here? Kyle Freeland against the Phillies, Zach Eflin against the Rockies at Coors Field.
Yeah, so I actually wrote up Zach Eflin in today's deep dive, and I was actually pretty excited to have him in tournaments. But I'm walking that back now that it appears we are going to get David Dahl and Ryan McMahon both back in the Colorado lineup.
Yeah.
Like you said, Eflin better against righties, does a really good job of limiting hard contact. He's thrown his slider to righties over 50% of the time this year. There was a lot of stuff that made me interested in him in tournaments, despite the fact that he's pitching in cores. But if you get David Dahl back in there, who's a good hitter from the left side, you get Ryan McMahon in there, who at the very least has some power from the left side. It becomes a lot more appealing for me to have the Rockies bats than it does to be taking a pitcher against them. So I'd have less interest in Eflin, assuming that is the lineup. We're still waiting on it. And then on the other side,
let me weigh in on that real quick before you go over to Freeland. Because I said the same thing this morning. Eflin was someone that I had a lot of tournament interest in. I had to go back 7 days to find the last time the Rockies faced a righty. And of course, their only lefties other than Blackman are guys that really don't concern you, whether it be like Tapia and forget who else it was at the time. But you're right. If we're seeing that Dahl and McMahon are coming back into the lineup, knowing that they have power, that's a huge hit. Even from just I don't want to say I'm too worried about Eflin's floor because he's in Coors Field, but from an upside standpoint, the more righties, the better. And I would do the same thing and walk it back because those two guys will make a big difference, especially given that both of them bat from the left side. So yeah, good point.
Yeah, and you said you mentioned that it doesn't really change his floor, and I don't think it does either because the floor was non-existent regardless.
Exactly.
But it does lower his median projection a little bit. But the big thing for me is that that the teams in Coors Field on a 5-game slate are going to be popular stacks. When you're looking at Tapia and Josh Fuentes in the lineup, I don't really care about. I'm not that excited to be stacking them at high ownership.
Right.
When you replace them with David Dahl and with Ryan McMahon, now there's a stack there that has a lot of power that I actually like.
Exactly. Yeah. So I wanted to add on to that. It's a good point, and it's one that Eflin would have been in consideration for me for sure, especially at a cheap price point, knowing that he can get some strikeouts against same-handed bats, but that would change quite a bit if both of those guys are in fact slotted back into the lineup. All right, Kyle Freeland, Adam.
Yeah, so I mean, it's the price tag on him is nice on the two pitcher sites. He's really inexpensive. He's not a bad pitcher at all. He can get it done in cores. Gets a lot of ground balls from righties, strikes out lefties. Only one lefty in the lineup, and it's Bryce Harper, who is the second best hitter on the team against left-handed pitching. So not like it's an easy out there. I don't see a lot of strikeouts for him, and I hate taking pitchers against Philadelphia because they do such a good job of working counts, and they have so many good hitters in their lineup. So it's purely a price play for me. I'll get to some Freeland just because I think he's more talented than like a $6,200 DraftKings price tag. And you have to roster two pitchers, even though there's none that you really want to. So I'll have some Freeland, but like I'm happy if he gets out of this game with like 14 fantasy points.
Right.
And $37 on Yahoo is expensive.
How much? 37, you said?
Yeah, 37 on Yahoo. So he's 300 more than Tanner Roark, whereas on DraftKings he's 1,000 less. He's 7 more than Eflin, whereas DraftKings he's 600 less.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. The 37 in a vacuum isn't that much, but compared to the rest of a lot of these pitchers, it's definitely God. Clay Buchholz is $42. It's the same price as Michael Pineda. That's pretty wild.
Also, if you're playing the full slate, Domingo Germán's $33. Just
33. Soroka's 32. Yeah, some interesting. Oh, I'm sorry. Soroka was the day slate. What was that? That game 4-1. I think that's over.
Yeah, he got a ton of swings and misses and stuff.
Yeah, I still had the all day one pulled up, but yeah.
Like on Yahoo, I think that I would probably be more interested in taking a risk on like Julio Urias for 35 than for Freeland for 37.
Okay, I get that. Now let's actually break down the hitters here. We'll start with Philly against Freeland. Freeland has found a way to pitch well at Coors, and a decent amount of their arms have, but it's also a Phillies team that McCutchen. Kingery batting second is pretty interesting. Harper, Hoskins, Real Muto, Roman Quinn in the lineup. By the way, it's actually a good park for Roman Quinn. You and I mentioned this a lot, but it needs to be mentioned more whenever we're talking Coors. Coors is not just a homer park. Like, it's a super the outfield is very hard to get to if you're an outfielder in terms of balls just landing where they shouldn't. You see a lot of doubles and triples in a park like this. So guys like Roman Quinn, you don't need to be a home run power bat in order to have value at Coors. Actually, guys like Quinn can have a lot of value here.
Yeah, actually, this entire Philly lineup outside of like Rhys Hoskins and Maikel Franco, that's why I love, or one of the additional reasons I love them as a stack is while Freeland doesn't usually get torched, he does let you put the ball in play. And a big reason that Coors is such a good hitter's park, like you said, is just balls falling in for hits. It's not necessarily home runs. Like, the outfield is huge, and that leads to extra hits. But everyone in this lineup, McCutchen, Kingery, Harper, Realmuto is the fastest catcher in baseball. Quinn's fast. Hernandez is fast.
Yeah.
These guys, when they hit a ball in the gap, they can turn the single into a double. They can turn a double into a triple. And when they're on base, they can score, easier than in other parks. So it's just a team where, with all the speed they have and as many good hitters as they have and as good as they are getting on base, even if you don't get a bunch of home runs off of Freeland, I think there's a good chance that you're just stringing together, 5 points, 7 points at a time from a lot of guys.
Yeah, I'm with you there for sure. What about the Rocky bats? Let me refresh, see if we finally got it. We still don't have a lineup there, but I guess we'll assume that Dahl and McMahon will be back in the lineup.
Right. So Blackmon, Arenado, and Story, regardless of what's around them, I like. Blackmon, if you took out position scarcity, Blackmon would be my favorite just because he is, a good lefty. He's off to an awful start this year, but I don't really care about that. So he's got some platoon advantage against Eflin, and he would be my favorite guy. But outfield has a million good plays on this slate, whereas third base and shortstop are both pretty thin. Arenado and Story, obviously, we prefer them against lefties, but since Story came into the league, he still has like a 286 ISO against righties in Coors Field. Arenado over the last few seasons is at 257. So still all kinds of power for these guys at pretty weak positions. So I like all three of them. If we get Dahl back in the lineup, Dahl at 4,600 is a ridiculously good price tag. 4,300 for McMahon is a nice one as well, especially on DraftKings. He has second base eligibility, which is really, really nice. So I would like both of those guys a lot. McMahon is $9 on Yahoo.
Wow.
That's like a clear top play there. They're all
Wow.
cheap on Yahoo, but McMahon $9 really stands out. Blackmon
Where do you
for
think he
7th.
hits?
5th.
You think so?
I would imagine he's like ahead of Desmond. Worst, I would say 6th. Like, there's no reason. So I think we're about to get their lineup, and I think Tapia is in for Desmond. I think we're going to get – it's not confirmed yet, but I just saw a change, and normally that precedes it being confirmed. Yeah, there it is. Blackmon, it's the best lineup Colorado could have run out. Blackmon, Dahl, Arenado, Story, McMahon, Tapia, Hampson, Walters, Freeland.
So McMahon is batting 5th.
McMahon's 5th, Tapia's 6th. I am taking away pretty much all of my interest in Eflin, and Colorado's probably my highest owned stack now because
that changes a lot. Read it off one more time so the viewers can hear you.
Charlie Blackmon, David Dahl, Nolan Arenado, Trevor Story, Ryan McMahon, Raimel Tapia, Hampson, Walters, Freeland. Like, I don't care about those last three, but 1 through 6 is really, really good.
It's the best 1 through 6 they've had all year. I mean, that's
and they're affordably priced. I said McMahon's 9 on Yahoo, Tapia's 10, Dahl's 18, Blackman's 17.
Yep.
And on DraftKings, Dahl's 46.
McMahon's 43.
Yeah, Tapia's 42 or 43. So they just got like really, really good and really affordable all at once.
No question. Tapia is not very good, but if you're gonna run a stack out, he's batting 6th and he's not overpriced at Coors.
Yeah, he's behind McMahon. He's behind Dahl. He's behind the 5 hitters ahead of him for me, and he's behind like the top, 5. He's basically Roman Quinn. Like, he's behind the top 5 hitters on both teams, but he's in Coors and he's going to have a bat in his hands.
I would agree with that. Also, when you look at some of the Dodger bats, because I do like these Dodger bats a lot, they are really expensive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they are really expensive. You look at on Yahoo, Bellinger is tied for the most expensive outfielder. Jock Peterson's above $20 still. Most of these guys are very, very pricey, and then the same goes for DraftKings. So it's not like Coors. It's not like stacking Coors means that you have to change everything around. If you're stacking the Dodger bats, you're also going to be paying a premium for them. And you know what? A lot of these Tampa bats, like Meadows and Pham, are not cheap. Kiermaier's not cheap. Choi is one of the guys that you get cheap. Brandon Lau is 4,400 still. So some of our favorite stacks, or at least some of mine, are still going to price you up.
Yeah, and I mean, on one hand, that is why I think the Dodgers probably do come in at pretty low ownership. But on the other hand, it's a lot of opportunity cost to pay more money for the Dodgers than for the Rockies or the Phillies.
Yep, I'm with you there. All right, you want to move on?
Yep.
2 games to go, Adam. Let's talk Angels, Seattle. Felix Hernandez and Chris Stratton. I don't know. Oddly, this is a game that just overall I don't have a heck of a lot of interest in, but we're going to break it all down. I don't believe we have confirmed lineups no, we don't, for either team yet. Thoughts on these two pitchers?
They both suck.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much to add to that. I really don't. Stratton gets a favorable. No, Stratton gets Angel Park, which is good. It's like he had AT&T, formerly known as AT&T Park. He's at Angel. Felix Hernandez is going to face an Angels team that's down most of their good hitters, so maybe he won't get destroyed. But I mean, neither of these guys are good.
Yeah, I mean, like 5,800 on Stratton on DraftKings. I'll have some just because why not? But it's not like an endorsement for anything about Chris Stratton. He gets blown up quite a bit here, and I like Seattle bats. It's just that I don't really want to put all my eggs in any one basket at pitcher on this slate because I don't like any of them. So I'll have some Stratton. I see no reason to get the Felix. Like you're paying. I'd rather just roster like $7,400 Yarborough and hope he pitches than roster Felix, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I don't see the need to get the Felix. I'll have some Stratton though.
All right. Works for me. Let's talk about hitters here. I think we have a pretty good idea of what the lineups will look like. Seattle bats have been very strong this season. And most of them as well, you're going to have to pay a bit for. I don't know if Haniger is going to be in the lineup. I guess we'll see. He had a sinus infection. He was scratched yesterday. Mike Trout is back. And he is always a viable play, but he's always going to be, super, super expensive. Any hitters or stacks stand out to you here? It's a 5-game slate, but still I'm not super excited about either team.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that Seattle's like an upside stack where I'm getting a pretty decent amount of them. Like I have them behind the Coors teams, I have them behind Tampa Bay, and then they're coming in like right around where I have the Dodgers, just because they have good hitters. Hopefully Haniger's in the lineup. It makes their lineup, deeper, but you have power with guys like Domingo Santana and Encarnacion, Jay Bruce. I mentioned Ryan Healy in the deep dive article today because the third base position isn't really that deep. Like you have Arenado, obviously. You have, I think a lot of people go to Yandy Diaz, which I think is perfectly fine, but at basically the same price point, if you're just talking about a one-off and not a Tampa stack, you can get Ryan Healy hitting, at the bottom of the order, but with plenty of power against Stratton at low ownership. So I think that he's like a reasonable one-off. So yeah, like I like hitters here. It's just that it's hard to prioritize them ahead of Coors Field. Mike Trout on the other side obviously is a top play if you can get to him. He is Mike Trout. He has ridiculous BVP against Hernandez if that's something that you're into. So obviously like him, and I think Cole Calhoun on DraftKings in particular stands out as a top value at 3,600.
Yeah.
He's $13 on Yahoo, but that's not as enticing when you talk about, Blackman being $17, but on DraftKings, 3,600 for Calhoun compared to 5,100 or 5,200 for Blackman is a pretty big price difference.
Yeah, and Calhoun, at least you're getting him towards the top or at the top of the lineup. So he's not great, but you could do worse than Calhoun. I agree with you too that price point is a little bit too cheap for him. And he's been pretty decent in good spots. So you could do a lot worse than that. You could do better, but you could do worse at 3,600. Let's close it out, Adam. We've got one game to go. Before we do, You hear us referencing ownership projections, player projections, all that good stuff. Over at awesemo.com, we have got all of that set up nice and pretty for you. And if you want to check it out, you can get 50% off, half off your first month of subscription at awesemo.com simply by using the promo code Deeper Dive. One word, Deeper Dive, all one word. And you get the ownership projections, the player projections. Alex Baker, Awesemo himself, all of his content, his rankings, his articles, so much more. The lineup builder, fantasy cruncher add-on articles from myself, from Adam, all of Josh's content, Jazz Raz, Ben Rasa, some great PGA and college sports content where he really excels. And basically all of our DFS sports, we've got everything for you. So if you want to check it out and you want to get 50% off your first month, check it out, awesemo.com, and use the promo code Deeper Dive, all one word. And by the way, you can simply get a weekly pass too if you'd like to check it out with no serious strings attached. All right, Adam, let's close it out with this last game. Cincy and San Diego. Chris Paddock, $9,100 on DraftKings. Paddock on Yahoo is $45, and on FanDuel, where I think it's a little bit less important, is weighing in at 8,500, the second highest priced pitcher on the slate. And then, of course, you have Tanner Roark, who is going to be popular, and it's pretty wild. The ownership updates just, let's see, did we get an update here on ownership? I just want to make sure here, Adam. Let's see if we did.
Just got one at 543.
We got one?
Yep.
All right.
All right.
Well,
While you look that up, the most recent that I see on the Tampa Bay pitching situation is a tweet from one of the Tampa writers that says Ryan Yarbrough is good to go. That doesn't mean he's pitching today. The Rays will be flexible. So I don't know what that means other than Yarbrough is available.
Wow. All right. Well, I have no idea what that means. I don't think any of us do. So I guess take it for what it is, which is not much. Anyway, looking at the ownership here, Adam, Tanner Roark still right now projected to have 50% ownership, 5-0. That's right, on DraftKings. On Yahoo, 54% ownership, also the highest projected pitcher. That, like I said, very high. Chris Paddock second right now at 31. Freeland and Stratton at 27. So, there you have it, man. Tanner Roark, 50 and 54% respectively.
Yeah, that's a lot. And I agree. I agree with it. He projects as outside of Domingo Germán, he projects as like the top point per dollar pitcher for me. But it's clearly a case also of him just getting a ton of ownership because there's a lack of other options, not because he's actually good or the Padres are even that bad or anything like that.
Right.
So in spots like that on these smaller slates, I don't mind at least bumping my projections a little bit for guys like Manny Machado and Franmil Reyes and, Renfroe if he's in the lineup. The power bats on San Diego, because getting to some San Diego, like full stacking San Diego isn't that appealing here, because even if they get to Roark, like the chances of them being the highest scoring team on the slate are not that high. But getting to some one-offs like an inexpensive Machado or an inexpensive Franmil Reyes, I think makes sense. And maybe just trying to like match the field on Roark. So I try to be careful in spots like this on the smaller slates, because like everyone else, I have Roark rating out as my top play. But it's, again, just like a lack of other options. It's not that I'm expecting Roark to go out there and strike out 12 guys or something.
Josh and I spoke about this earlier today, and Josh, feel free to weigh in if you want. Get your take on this, Adam. It's very unlikely and very rare that not having Tanner Roark on any given slate is going to kill you. The thing is, on a slate like this, what are your alternatives?
Right. And I mentioned that in the article today. You can always make an argument for fading anyone popular in baseball, but especially low strikeout pitchers, because you got unlucky if he goes out there and just racks up strikeouts.
Yeah.
he has like a 302 WOBA against righties over the last couple of years, but he's still struck out 18%. It's just not who he is. And
Nope.
so if he has like his normal game, it's like, 16, 17 points, whatever, who cares? If he gets unlucky and gives up some hits or home runs or whatever, then you just faded, a landmine. So there's a clear argument for it, but it's just, where do you go? Zach Eflin was going to be my guy, but I hate the Colorado lineup for him. Ryan Yarbrough, I guess, if you could make that argument, but who knows if he even pitches. There's just no like clear alternative unless you're doing something like I'm doing in a lot of my lineups and going like Chris Paddock plus Hunter Wood or something like that. So it's like I'm gonna have a good amount of Roark just because I don't know how to get away from it. But he's just not the kind of pitcher that I really feel good about being over the field when he's really popular.
Since the start of last season, he has a 9.7% swing and strike rate against righties, 8.5 against lefties. So single digits against lefties and righties alike.
Yeah, and the Padres, I mean, they have strikeouts in their lineup, but not as many as they used to. Like Margot's a difficult strikeout, Machado's tough, Hosmer's tough, Kinsler's tough, and they also have a ton. Their strikeout guys all have power. So when you get a guy like Roark that generally doesn't miss bats, that plays into the strengths of guys like Franmil Reyes.
Absolutely. This was something I've been saying all season. I know it's early in the season, but yes, it's still a Padres team that you can get good pitching performances against. But it's also not the same Padres team where if you didn't get a good pitching performance against them, it was a surprise and like the pitcher must have imploded.
Right.
This team is they're not terrible anymore. Whereas before they were god awful, and even the ones with power had huge holes in their swings and massive strikeout potential. Whereas now the ones with power, at least some of them, and some of the righties don't. So I agree. It's something to consider. Tanner Roark and cash, obviously.
Yep.
And in tournaments, yeah, I get it. But if you think you have a way to get away from it, where there's actually some upside. That was actually why I liked Eflin earlier in the day. I thought, okay, a 6 or 7 righty lineup for the Rockies. Roark doesn't rely on like a looping curveball. Maybe he could give me 8 strikeouts, and Tanner Roark only has 3 or 4. Like it's possible, but now that's out of the question.
Right. It's just so much less likely like that
Right.
happens. And so, I mean, on my initial crunch, like Roark's my highest owned pitcher. It's just that if you want your stand to be, I'm not playing Tanner Roark in this, single entry lineup or whatever, I'm not going to talk you off of that because I think it's a perfectly viable stand. You just have to understand that like there's no pivot that has less risk than him.
Right, exactly. And also, again, he doesn't have much upside either. It's just
Right.
If you got 20 from him, you'd be happy, very happy. Like,
Yeah.
Thoughts on
like
Chris?
if Felix?
Go ahead.
I'll say like if Felix Hernandez wasn't trash, I would love going there.
Dude, it's so funny you say it. When I pulled the page up today, my first thought was, can I do it? And then as I went along, I'm like, no, I can't. I can't. But I mean, any half decent righty against the Angels should be able to have a decent game. He's just not really half decent anymore. So,
when this version of the Angels has a 5.2 implied run total in Anaheim, I don't think the opposing pitcher is considered half decent.
Yeah, exactly. That's a wildly high total.
Yeah. Andrelton Simmons is your projected cleanup hitter in a pitcher's park, and you have a 5.2 implied run total.
It's just crazy. It's crazy. Anyway, Chris Paddock.
Yeah. Why not? He's got the best stuff on the slate. He's got the best stuff on the non-Domingo Germán slate, at least. And he's got a favorable matchup. No Yasiel Puig in the lineup for Cincinnati is pretty nice as well. His issue is that he hasn't gone over 90 pitches yet in the game. He's been really inefficient. He's walking guys, but he's also struck out over 30% of hitters that he's faced. He's got a really good fastball. He's got an unbelievably good changeup that he can throw to hitters from both sides of the plate. And, if you can get to him, he's my favorite pitcher outside of Domingo Germán on the slate. So if you can get there, sure. I was getting a little bit less than him with Tanner Roark, but same ballpark.
All right. Batters.
I like I like one-offing some Padres with Machado, Reyes, Myers, whatever. From the Cincinnati side, I have nothing.
All right. I guess that'll do it. We'll hit our stacks and head out of here. Adam, top stacks.
Colorado has jumped to the top for me now after seeing that lineup. So Colorado, Tampa, Philly, Dodgers, Mariners.
All right. I'm going to go with Rockies just kind of jumped ahead of everybody. Rockies and Phillies, Dodgers, and then Tampa's up there as well. God, there's 4 that I actually really like today.
Yep.
You could make a good argument for Milwaukee, and probably Seattle, like you said, just as an upside stack because they do have a lot of power. All right. And hey, by the way, check it out in YouTube chat. If you've yet to sign up for sponsor of the deep dive, yahoo.com, I'm going to post that link in chat so you can do so and get yourself with a little bit extra on the way out. Hit you with, Josh, what do they call them? Yahoo. When you sign up, you get the
Yahoo Sports Rewards points.
Yahoo Sports Rewards points. So a little added benefit there for signing up, and you get to play there as well. So
Promo code
check
Awesemo.
What's that?
Promo code
is Awesemo. That's over at yahoo.com. And as always, we appreciate you guys hanging out. Hit us with a thumbs up if you appreciate the show and like the content because it helps us out greatly, and we appreciate you much for it. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you always know when content's going to drop next. Live Before Lock coming up next. Good luck tonight, everyone. We'll catch you back here to close out the work week tomorrow on the Deeper Dive.